Imagine showing up for the most important job interview of your life and dismissing the humble gateman at the entrance, only to find out he's the billionaire CEO. This is the story of a bold experiment to uncover true character, and the shocking revelations will leave you speechless. Comments below where you're watching from, and if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel. Life, inspirational, and motivational tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Thanks. Let's start the story. The corporate office hummed with energy as candidates streamed in for the day's interviews. Each carried polished resumes, wearing their best suits, their faces reflecting a mix of excitement and nerves. At the entrance, a man stood silently, dressed in the modest uniform of a gateman, a red MAGA hat perched proudly on his head. His weathered hands held the heavy iron gates open as candidates brushed past him, some murmuring a quick thank you, others offering nothing more than a dismissive glance. The man's presence seemed unremarkable, just another gatekeeper doing his job. Yet, hidden behind that red hat was Mr. Bradley, the billionaire CEO of the company. Known for his sharp business acumen and unconventional methods, Bradley had decided to go undercover, believing that actions in unscripted moments spoke louder than carefully crafted interview answers. A young woman paused as she passed him, offering a warm smile and a genuine good morning. Bradley nodded, his eyes lingering thoughtfully as she walked inside. Moments later, a sharply dressed man approached, his phone pressed to his ear. Without even glancing at Bradley, he snapped, "Don't block the way," as he strode in. As the flow of candidates continued, Bradley's observations deepened. He wasn't interested in the resumes they carried or the rehearsed answers they'd give in the boardroom. He wanted to see their humanity, stripped of pretense, in the smallest of interactions. How you treat those you think don't matter says everything about who you are, Bradley had told his board weeks ago when proposing this experiment. Now, as he stood at the gates, silently judging the very people who would soon face him in an interview, the real test had already begun. Who among them would pass, and who would fail? Mr. Bradley's journey to success was far from ordinary. Born and raised in a small town where opportunities were scarce, he knew what it meant to struggle. His father worked long hours as a factory worker, while his mother juggled multiple part-time jobs to keep the family afloat. Bradley himself contributed early, mowing lawns and delivering newspapers to help make ends meet. Despite their hardships, his parents taught him invaluable lessons. Respect everyone, work hard, and never let success cloud your humanity. As he grew older, Bradley applied those principles relentlessly. From earning scholarships to building his own company from the ground up, his journey was a testament to grit, determination, and the strength of character instilled in him during those tough years. Even after amassing incredible wealth and becoming one of the most respected CEOs in the industry, he remained grounded. His red MAGA hat wasn't just an accessory, it symbolized his patriotism, his belief in hard work, and his unwavering commitment to fairness and opportunity. But lately, Bradley felt something was amiss within his company. Reports of arrogance, a lack of empathy, and an increasingly toxic culture among his employees had reached him. He prided himself on creating a workplace rooted in respect and collaboration, and these behaviors went against everything he stood for. He knew something had to change. It wasn't enough to hire the best resumes. He needed employees who valued integrity and respect as much as he did. That's when the idea struck him. Instead of relying solely on interviews and references, he decided to see the candidate's true character in an unscripted environment. You can tell a lot about a person by how they treat someone they think can't do anything for them, he told his closest advisors. While some were skeptical, others knew better than to question Bradley, an uninterventional strategy, which required no money, no time, and little effort. Everything seemed to be going well. He began preparing for his experiment. Trading his tailored suits for a simple Gateman's uniform, he practiced blending into the background. The red MAGA hat, while often polarizing, would add an element of intrigue and subtly test the biases of those who approached him. For weeks he observed employees and visitors alike, perfecting his act as an unassuming figure at the gates. The day of the hiring round arrived. Bradley positioned himself at the entrance, opening the heavy gates as candidates streamed in. It was a stark contrast to his usual place in the boardroom, but he knew this was where the real evaluations would happen. His role was simple yet profound. Greet the candidates, hold the gate open, and observe how they reacted to someone they perceived as a lowly gatekeeper. For Bradley, this wasn't just about hiring. It was about redefining what the company stood for. As he watched the candidates approach, he prepared himself for the moments that would reveal their true colors. The morning unfolded with a steady stream of candidates arriving at the company gates. Bradley, in his red MAGA hat and humble uniform, stood calmly by, opening the gate for each one, his demeanor warm and unassuming. Despite his simple role, his sharp mind analyzed every interaction, noting how each person treated him. The first notable interaction came from an impeccably dressed man, Robert, whose polished appearance radiated confidence. As Bradley politely asked for his ID, Robert rolled his eyes, dismissively waving his hand. "Seriously? You're the one asking? Just open the gate," he said with an air of superiority. Bradley held firm, insisting on protocol. Frustrated, Robert finally produced his ID, muttering under his breath about the pointless hassle. Not long after, a young woman named Emma arrived. Clutching her resume and visibly nervous, she approached the gate with a hesitant smile. "Good morning," she said warmly, handing over her ID. When Bradley held the gate open for her, she paused. "Thank you for this," she said sincerely, before stepping through. Her gratitude was genuine and had left an impression. Later, another candidate, Mark, approached with a polished demeanor. He greeted Bradley with a rehearsed politeness that seemed off. "Good morning, sir," he said with a toothy grin. But as he walked inside and thought he was out of earshot, Bradley overheard him say to another candidate, "Imagine wearing that ridiculous hat to work. Bet he doesn't even know what this company does." The real test came when a woman, visibly flustered and late, dropped her papers at the gate. Bradley immediately bent down to help her gather them. "Thank you so much," she said, breathless and clearly stressed. "You didn't have to do that." Dejan. She adjusted her bag and walked in. "Just saved your bag, Dejan." However, the most heated interaction of the day involved a man who had forgotten his ID. "Look," he snapped, "I'm here for an interview. You can't seriously be stopping me over this." Bradley calmly explained the policy, only for the man to lose his temper further. "You're just a gate man. Do your job and let me in," he shouted, his voice loud enough to draw attention. Later, during a quieter moment, Bradley overheard two candidates lingering near the entrance. One pointed at him, laughing. Imagine spending your life opening gates. Bet he's never done anything worthwhile, one of them said. The other chuckled in agreement. Their mockery was thinly veiled, loud enough to ensure he heard. By the end of the day, Bradley had seen enough. He noted the arrogance of some, the humility of others, and the striking contrast between those who treated him with respect and those who saw him as invisible or insignificant. It was time to act. Returning to his office, Bradley shed his uniform and MAGA hat, replacing them with his usual sharp suit. He called an emergency meeting with his hiring team, instructing them to gather the shortlisted candidates for the final round. His plan was clear. The next steps would reveal not only their professional skills, but also the depth of their character. The stage was set for the reveal. The candidates sat in the sleek boardroom, the air thick with tension. The hiring panel occupied one side of the long table, reviewing notes and folders with professional detachment. Each candidate glanced nervously around, waiting for the process to begin. The clock ticked steadily, and whispers filled the room as people speculated about the mysterious CEO who would oversee the final round. Then the door opened, and in walked the Gateman. But this time, he wasn't in the simple uniform they had seen before. Bradley stood tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, his signature red MAGA hat perched confidently on his head. The whisper stopped instantly. Eyes widened. A collective silence gripped the room as the candidates began to understand. The Gateman was the CEO. Bradley surveyed the room with calm authority, his gaze steady and penetrating. "Good afternoon," he began, his deep voice carrying a quiet power. "I'm Bradley, the CEO of this company. But over the past week, I've been someone else to all of you." The candidates shifted uncomfortably, their earlier interactions flashing through their minds. Bradley walked slowly to the head of the table, setting down a small folder. "I chose to take on the role of a gateman not as a test of your qualifications, but as a test of your character. You see, your resumes tell me what you've achieved, but how you treat others tells me who you are." He opened the folder, pulling out a few pages. "Let me tell you about my week." His eyes landed on Robert, the sharply dressed man who had dismissed him at the gate. "Mr. Robert," Bradley began, his tone sharp but composed, "when I asked for your ID, you dismissed me. You treated me as if I didn't matter, as if I were beneath you. Here at this company, we value mutual respect. If you can't demonstrate that to someone you perceive as insignificant, I'm afraid your journey with us ends here." A braceless older man, Robert's face flushed and he stammered a response, but Bradley held up a hand. "This isn't up for debate. Thank you for your time." Next, Bradley turned to Mark, the opportunist. "Mark, your greeting at the gate seemed polite enough, but words are empty without sincerity. You may not have realized I was within earshot when you mocked me to another candidate, but your actions speak volumes. This company has no room for duplicity. You are no longer being considered." Mark's jaw dropped, and he sank into his chair, unable to meet Bradley's gaze. "Bradley." Finally, Bradley's expression softened as he addressed Emma, the young woman who had shown him kindness. "Emma," he said, his voice warm, "you may not have had the most polished resume in this group, but you showed me what truly matters. Every morning you greeted me with a smile and gratitude. When others walked by without a word, you saw me as a person. That's the kind of character this company needs." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as Bradley continued. You've demonstrated not only your humanity, but also the humility and respect that make a great leader. I'd like to offer you the position." The room erupted into applause, but Bradley wasn't finished. He addressed everyone, his voice firm but encouraging. "The skills on your resume may open doors, but your character decides if you stay inside. Respect isn't reserved for titles. It's how you treat everyone, from the gateman to the CEO." The candidates sat in stunned silence, absorbing the weight of his words. Emma, still in shock, managed to stand and thank Bradley, her voice trembling with emotion. "I won't let you down," she promised. As the meeting ended, Bradley stayed behind, shaking hands with members of the hiring panel and personally congratulating Emma once more. As for the others, they left the room with a mix of embarrassment, regret, and newfound awareness. Bradley watched them go, his expression contemplative. This wasn't just about hiring the right person. It was about sending a message that echoed far beyond the boardroom walls. Character mattered, and he was determined to build a company where respect and integrity were non-negotiable. Bradley's experiment didn't end with the meeting. It became the start of a profound transformation within the company. The events of that week spread quickly, becoming the talk of not only the office but the entire industry. The story of the CEO who went undercover as a gateman resonated deeply, challenging preconceived notions of leadership and character. Word of the meeting rippled through the company, igniting a wave of self-reflection among employees. Bradley's message struck a chord. Respect and integrity weren't just corporate buzzwords. They were the foundation of a thriving workplace. Training programs on empathy, humility, and workplace ethics were introduced. Weekly discussions encouraged employees to share their experiences and commit to fostering a culture of inclusivity and kindness. For Emma, the kind candidate, her journey within the company blossomed in ways she could never have imagined. Bradley personally mentored her, recognizing her potential not only as an employee but as a leader. He taught her not just about strategy and business, but also about the importance of staying grounded and empathetic. Under his guidance, Emma spearheaded new initiatives aimed at employee well-being. Becoming a role model for her peers, she often reflected on the moment she greeted the gate man with a smile, never realizing it would change her life forever. The other candidates left the boardroom that day with mixed emotions. For Robert, the arrogant applicant, and Mark, the opportunist, it was a hard lesson. Both realized how their actions had not only cost them a job, but also revealed the cracks in their character. Over time, they sought to better themselves, inspired by the story that had humbled them. Bradley's decision to go undercover gained attention beyond the walls of his company. Leaders from other organizations reached out to him, intrigued by his unconventional approach. Many praised his commitment to valuing integrity over superficial qualities, while others questioned the risks of such a bold move. Bradley welcomed the conversations, using them as an opportunity to advocate for a shift in leadership values. In interviews and conferences, Bradley often shared his philosophy. Leadership isn't about sitting in a high-rise office, making decisions. It's about understanding the people who make your company what it is. Character isn't measured in boardrooms. It's measured in the everyday interactions we think don't matter. His story of the red MAGA hat became a symbol of his legacy. For Bradley, it wasn't just a piece of apparel. It was a statement of his belief in hard work, respect, and the American dream. He wore it not to provoke, but to remind people of his journey and the values that guided him. Once after the initial experiment, Bradley decided to return to the gate, this time in his tailored suit but still wearing the familiar red MAGA hat. As employees arrived, some hesitated, unsure how to react, while others greeted him warmly, their respect genuine and unforced. Bradley responded to each greeting with a warm smile, his presence a reminder that no role was too small to matter. One employee, a young intern, approached him nervously. "Mr. Bradley," she said, her voice tentative, "I just wanted to thank you. Your story inspired me to rethink how I treat people, not just at work, but in my life." Bradley smiled and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's all I could ever hope for. Keep spreading that kindness. It's contagious." As the day unfolded, Bradley stood at the gate, watching the ebb and flow of his company. He saw not just employees, but individuals striving to be better, to embody the values he had worked so hard to instill. The air felt lighter, the interactions more genuine. In that moment, Bradley knew his experiment had done more than reveal character. It had sparked change. And as he watched the next wave of candidates approach, he smiled, his red MAGA hat catching the sunlight. His belief remained unwavering. Character always matters. This story teaches us a powerful lesson. True character isn't defined by titles or appearances, but by how we treat those around us. Bradley's undercover experiment revealed that even the smallest acts of kindness and respect can leave lasting impressions. His journey challenges us to look beyond the surface and recognize the transformative impact of humility, empathy, and integrity. Have you ever been surprised by someone's actions, discovering their true character in an unexpected moment? Share your story in the comments and let's spark a conversation about the values that matter most in our interactions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories that challenge perspectives and inspire meaningful change. Together, we can foster a world where kindness and respect reign supreme.